You are live. Welcome to another episode of the Happy Hour Podcast. I am your host, Ricky Valero. On today's episode, Matt and I are going to explore the AFC and our predictions for the conference, talk about a little bit of some breaking news, talk about a little bets that I like, some over-unders heading into, and I might even highlight some week one early bets that I like. And then, of course, at the end of the show, we're going to have a little bit of a movie corner. As always, I'm joined by my partner here, Mr. Matthew Fox. How are you, bud?
Doing good. I'm getting ready. We have our draft party for my office. Starts in about an hour. I have the trophy ready to present. My wife picked out a trophy this year, a bunch of armchair quarterbacks. We got an armchair trophy, and she's helping get decorated. We're going to have some lunch, and hopefully I'll do better than last year. I was looking, we put up our board from last year so we can compare my top three draft picks last year. I thought I was going to rock it. I took Michael Thomas, then I got Chris Godwin and Cortland Sutton, and I thought no one's going to be able to touch my wide receivers, and that didn't work out. So I'm hoping for better luck this year. I have my co-commissioner who's going to be co-drafting with me, and and as she just said, she's better.
That's funny. I like that a whole lot. Yeah, I'm excited. A week from yesterday, we are going to get live NFL football, and the countdown begins. You know what I mean? 17 consecutive regular season weeks. Matthew Fox and I on the grind with.
Actually, it's 18 now.
Oh, yeah. 18. Sorry. Yeah, I forgot about that. Well, I think 17
games.
It's
going to take a lot to get used to.
It really is. Well, the thing about it is like it's been very hard to really hone in on some of the bets because I'm like, well, man, I really like that. Oh, wait, you got to factor in the extra game. So a 10-7, 11-6 season is likely now. So it's like, all right. So before, in my opinion, like, you have I feel like whenever I do my predictions, I try to be within one or two wins or one or two losses of where I really feel like the trajectory is, right? And some of the teams I feel like when I predict them, I have them at like 8 or 9 wins, but but some of them I could be like, I could really see them being a 4 or 5 win team. And that to me, but there's most of my projections on my teams. I'm really like, I feel good about this in a 1 or 2 win window. But then whenever you're betting that 1 or 2 win window really is it's like, so if there's like an over under of a team of the over under for the Chiefs is like 11.5, right? So I'm like, okay, so they're normally this, look at the schedule. Like if I feel like they're at 10 wins, then if I think that's a 1 or 2 window, then I feel like that 11.5, I'm going to stay away from it. So if I don't feel confident in that number, then I'm not going to go after it. So
it's interesting. Theirs has come down then because when we were looking at them, when I pulled Vegas odds for over under wins last week, it was 12.5, and I thought that was too rich for me. I took the under, but I don't feel good about it. To me, I think they're right in that 12 win. But I wouldn't be shocked if they hit 13. So 11.5 almost feels like a good smash over.
So okay, so they have the regular season wins, and then they have some alternative lines of which on the site where you can kind of go teeter back and forth. Their actual regular season is 12.5, but but I look at some of the alternative season wins, and their alternative season wins was at 11.5, which was something that I was kind of intrigued by, and I've teeter-tottered with a lot. But with that being said, we've had some big news this week. The biggest of them all was Mr. Mac Jones overtaking Cam Newton for the job in New England. I have talked about this until I'm blue in the face. I love Mac Jones. I think the potential's there. I think the upside's there. I think fantasy-wise, the people around him. I am Jonnu Smith to the moon now, baby. It's to the moon. I believe in that. I really feel like that he gives them an opportunity to win now as well. I really do. This team, I really feel like they could be a sleeper team to kind of maybe be in the hunt for a wild card. I don't know if they're quite there yet because the defense, they have some secondary issues. Gilmore not playing, but Mac Jones makes them competitive, which I think going into the season, there was question marks around that. And that's nothing against Cam Newton. I just feel like people discredit Mac Jones's swagger. I think he does have some swagger. I think it doesn't exude like a Joe Burrow did. But I think Mac Jones didn't get enough credit for his fantastic season that he had a year ago. I don't know. My phone just randomly went off. But what are your thoughts on the scenario?
I was a little surprised they released Cam Newton. I still thought he would start a couple of games at the beginning of the season and they'd ease Jones in there. But they must have felt like they're ready to just see what happens. I am not sold they make the playoffs. I actually still have them just missing the playoffs. I like Mac Jones for fantasy. I think he's still going to end up probably being in the low end QB2 range. They have a couple of decent tight ends if they can stay healthy, but their wide receiver core is not incredible. N'Keal Harry already slid to IR. They have Kendrick Bourne. They have Jacoby Myers. We don't really truly know how good he is. He looked like the best Patriots receiver last year in a really tough passing situation. Nelson Aguilar is their other guy. Then you have like Gunnar Olszewski. And I don't think they've given him the most incredible set of weapons. I'm not sure about their defense totally bouncing back. They lost some people both to retirement and to free agency that were institutional knowledge kind of guys. I liked the Matthew Judon pickup. We'll see how they make that work. I think it's good for them. They got Kyle Van Noy back. Their offensive line is also still a little bit of a work in progress. They lost Joe Thuney. They lost a couple pieces. I think they will tend to run a little bit more of a conservative package and try to win close games, which isn't a terrible idea. I think Mac Jones is going to be good. I don't know if we see the maximum of him this year, especially given some of the tools around him.
Yeah, I really do feel like we're going to see a solid run of two tight end offense with a lot of running the football with some play action. I do think that they're going to try to get the ball out of his hands quick. We saw a little bit of that whenever that he was on the field during preseason. I do think that this type of offense is going to kind of stick with the Tom Brady-esque offense they had. You know what I mean? Not a lot of deep passes, not a lot of deep throws. They might try to open the field up here and there whenever they do a play action, but I do think that we're going to see a lot of 5-10-yard throws. Yeah, at maximum 15, 20-yard throws out of Mac Jones this year.
And that is kind of the receiving weapons they put around him. I mean, that does seem like Kendrick Bourne, Myers, and
I do think that Henry and Smith can line up wide as well. You know what I mean? They might not be the best, but I do think that they have the capability of not a whole game, but a few times. I'm really upset about the Irv Smith injury. It really sucks. This was Irv Smith's year. My opinion on Minnesota was very lukewarm. I don't think Irv really kind of changed it a whole lot, and obviously the bringing in of Chris Herndon here is really going to help them. But I just don't like this team this year. I don't know what it is. They might surprise me. They have weapons,
as I said before. They have big 7-10 energy going on.
Man, they really do. But, they also have that energy. Like, they have that 7-10 energy, but also wouldn't surprise me if they did what they did like last year and sneak a 9-8 win season, snag the last wild card seed, and then get blown out in the playoffs. Like, I feel like that's what their consistent motto is there in Minnesota. I'm lukewarm about the entire thing. I had high hopes for Irv Smith. Chris Herndon is the fourth option in that offense, and that's not really good considering you have Kirk Cousins who, he can support two wide receivers, and then of course you have Dalvin Cook. But outside of that, I really don't. I feel like Herndon's going to be one of those guys where you start him the wrong week is going to be what he's going to be. Yeah,
that's the thing. So it was a real bummer about Irv Smith. I liked him as a top 10 potential. We've been waiting for him to get the solo op. It reminds me a little bit, I was telling somebody the other day, it reminds me a little bit of when Antonio Gates finally retired, and we're like, it's Hunter Henry's year, and then he tore his ACL. And you're like, okay, well, I guess Hunter Henry's year is going to have to wait. Feels a little bit like that with Irv Smith. I think the difference I would think between, first of all, I'm not sold entirely that Herndon is the guy at tight end. I think he's going to have to learn the system. He's going to have to get worked in. They obviously like him enough that they wanted to create competition. But if you listen to Mike Zimmer talking about their depth chart beyond Irv Smith, he basically called it uninspiring. But I think Tyler Conklin's going to play some. I think there's probably going to be some kind of a split there. I mean, last year even with Irv Smith, they were working in Kyle Rudolph. They're a team that likes to use multiple tight ends. Where I'm not as bullish on Conklin and Herndon as I would have been on Irv Smith is it seemed like Irv Smith was getting some of the goal line and red zone targets that were going to Adam Thielen. I don't think that necessarily happens with bringing in new tight ends. So it's probably a bump for anyone for Adam Thielen, who could end up putting up another one of those. He only gets 750 yards receiving, but he gets 10 touchdowns and ends up being a borderline wide receiver one.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. Trey Lance, finger injury. He's got a salt and vinegar chip in his pinky or something like that. I don't know what it is. I don't really know how to deal with the scenario. I don't know if it's a made up injury or I don't know what.
Well, it's got to be his non-throwing hand, right? Because if you had a bone chip in your throwing hand, I think they'd be more cautious and they'd be saying longer than a week before he returns. I'm guessing it's got to be a small bone chip in his non-throwing hand because they have a lot invested in Trey Lance to throw him out there if he's injured.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. I mean, I do think that they will play it safe with him, kind of see what Jimmy G does the first couple of weeks. I did like the idea of what they were doing with the changing out of quarterbacks. It'll be interesting to see if he tries that in the middle of the game.
I think they're going to keep that.
I do think so as well. I do think that if they get in the red zone, they really could utilize Lance's legs to kind of make a play, down the field. It wouldn't surprise me if they did that more often during the season. But I mean, I really don't feel like Trey Lance, unless he has the full starting job, has a whole lot of value right now.
Well, that's what I was going to say. For fantasy, I think that submarines both of them. I think quarterback 32 to 34 for both of them because they're going to end up splitting and they're going to end up, 49ers weren't a high volume quarterback position to begin with. So if a guy's only going to get 20 points, now it's going to be split between two guys. You're talking about two quarterbacks getting you 10. That's not somebody you're starting. It will probably be innovative for NFL terms, but not for fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely not. And that's what concerns me about Jameis Winston, because Jameis Winston's, if they took Drew Brees off the field for Taysom Hill, then I definitely know that they're going to take Jameis Winston off the field for Taysom Hill. But what happens with Deshaun Watson? As we've heard the reports, every team's trading for him. Every team's close to trading for him, but nobody has traded for him yet. I did like Flores's comment, but I did think that it was still open-ended in some aspects. Like, Tua's our guy right now. Like, it was a vote of confidence to say Tua's our guy, but at the same time, I don't think it was like Tua's our guy long term. You know what I mean? He could have really said it in a different way that really would have been like reassuring for Tua. But
I almost think the way they put it is they considered whether they were going to make the trade, and they're going to roll this season because there's still a lot of uncertainty with Watson, but I wouldn't rule it out in the offseason. I've been all over the map with Watson. This has been the most difficult situation to handicap, and when he reported and was there at training camp, I thought, oh, well, I guess he is going to play, but it seems like the Texans are committing to losing. I mean, they started a fire sale. I think they're trying to follow that plan. They probably saw what Miami did a couple of years ago, where they weren't afraid to sell off big players for assets and weren't afraid to start losing to try to build toward the future. I think they want to be like 1-16, 0-17, 2-15, and they're going to be happy to roll Tyrod Taylor or Davis Mills and to keep Watson as a healthy scratch. They're not going to cut him because you get no value back. But I don't think they want to play him. And right now, I don't think anyone feels super comfortable trading for him. Maybe mid-season, if like a big-time contender loses a quarterback and they're like, let's roll the dice, and Watson still hasn't been put on the exempt list, maybe you see it there. I don't expect him to play a snap for the Texans.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't expect it to. I really – part of me wishes the resolution of this entire case would figure itself out so we know what to do, because it's one of those things where I don't hate the idea of people attempting to take a very, very late round pick on him and just kind of see where it goes. And if you have the roster spot now, somebody gets hurt, you throw them off the roster, et cetera, et cetera. But it is, you know what I mean? It is what it is. Yeah. I really don't know how to go any further into that.
I saw people in Scott Fishbowl, which I know you were doing, roll the dice and take him like the 7th or 8th round as their QB2 because they thought there was a chance, and they've probably been waiting with bated breath, and it looks like that's unfortunately going to be a dice roll that won't pay off.
Have you been hindered by any of the injuries for your Scott Fishbowl team?
I was afraid to look because, Scott Fishbowl, I think the first time we can run waivers, I believe, is Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
We get to do the waiver run. I went and looked, and fortunately, I took Drew Lock as my 4th quarterback, and he's not a starter, so that was kind of a bummer. And I had John Brown as a late-round pick because I thought he might have something with the Raiders. If people didn't hear, he was released. Now there's talk he might get picked up by the Saints, so that might not end up being terrible. But other than that, I managed to survive pretty well. I saw somebody post that they had Dobbins and
Akers, I think.
Akers, yeah.
Yeah, I survived the injuries as well. I was very pleased with that. I did end up with Mac Jones, though. Mac Jones is my 3rd quarterback because I've got Matt Ryan, Dak, and Mac. So that to me, that ended up kind of playing in my favor. I'm not a huge fan of my team. Like, I don't know. It is what it is. It's a great cause. It's a great cause. That's all at the end of the day.
If George Kittle can actually stay healthy for an entire season, I think my team could be good. But if I gambled on him again because I wanted Waller, but Waller went like 1 pick in front of me, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do it again, George. Please give me more than 3. Because last year, every time George Kittle played, I won my Scott Fishbowl matchup. Every time he was out of the lineup, I lost.
Nice. Yeah, I'm interested because I've got my team's pretty solid. I mean, I got Dak, I got Eckler, I've got Stephon Diggs, I got Adam Thielen, Robert Woods. I've got a decent little team. But enough about the Scott Fishbowl team. We're going to go into our AFC predictions like we did last week. Mr. Fox, I want you to give us your 4 division winners.
Yep. So my division winners, winning the AFC East as my number 1 seed, the Buffalo Bills. Winning the AFC West, my number 2 seed, the Kansas City Chiefs. Winning the AFC North, my number 3 seed, the Cleveland Browns. And winning the AFC South, my number 4 seed, the Tennessee Titans. So I know at least 2 of those you won't be happy about.
All right. So for me, my number 1 seed is the Buffalo Bills. My number 2 seed is the Kansas City Chiefs. My number 3 seed is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And my number 4 seed is the Colts. Now, I went back and forth with the Colts and the Titans. It was an interesting battle. I think what came to a head for me with Indianapolis was their last 3 games. So I like to look at the last 3 games of the schedule and even 4. Colts end with New England, Arizona. They got Las Vegas and then Jacksonville. I think it's kind of nice. But the Titans do face Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Miami, Houston. I could easily see them go 1-3 on that trip, and even 2-2. But I do think that it's going to be a one or it depends on Wentz is playing. But my biggest problem with the Titans is their defense. They play their schedule's not super hard, but they start the season Arizona, Seattle, Indianapolis. And then, of course, they get the Jets at New York. And then, of course, they play Jacksonville. But then they play Buffalo, Kansas City, Indianapolis, the Rams. Like, they need to start very hot because if they don't, they're going to be in a lot of trouble because they have a hard schedule, period. I just feel like they have a hard schedule. And they don't have a hard schedule in terms of, like, light scoring teams where they could be competitive. They can't outscore Buffalo. They can't outscore Kansas City. Indianapolis is still a question mark. They're not going to outscore the Rams. And I think the Saints might give them a run for their money just offensively. Like, if you can score points, I feel like you can be in those teams. And I know that the Titans will score points too.
So that was a little bit of my concern with the Colts because I don't think they're entirely healthy. T.Y. Hilton may not have had a ton left, but he was experienced and gave them a weapon. He went on IR. He has that neck thing. I don't know 100% how Wentz is, how how their line is, and they open with Seahawks, Rams, then they're at the Titans, at the Dolphins, at the Ravens. They get a home game against the Texans, which should be good, but then they're at the 49ers. I could easily see them only winning one or two of the first 7 games, and I think that puts them a little bit behind, which is where when I did the predictor going out, I have them ending up 9-8. I don't think it's a big spread between them and Tennessee, but I give the edge to Henry, A.J. Brown, and Julio Jones. I think Julio Jones gives them another dimension on offense. They do look like they improve their defense some. I don't think it's great. And that's why I still think whoever wins the South ends up being the lowest of the division winners.
Oh, absolutely. I tossed and turned with some of my final Pittsburgh winning the division is one of those ones that I'm kind of I
don't even have them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was looking at that. I struggled. It was either going to be Pittsburgh or Baltimore. I went back and forth on who I thought was going to. I feel like there's a lot of hype around the Browns, but I just don't buy the Browns. I mean, I still have them as a playoff team. I do. And the thing about it is the Bills and the Steelers and the Bills and the Chiefs are set above apart, right? You know what I mean? And I really feel like the third best team is the Chargers. I really feel like they're the third best team in the entire conference. I believe that. And then after that, I think I have everybody within one game of each other. So the Colts and Titans, I had the Colts winning one more game than the Titans. I have the Steelers winning one more game than the Browns. That to me is what the difference between all these guys are. And I struggle with the playoff teams too because it's just I see you don't even have the Chargers in the playoffs, which is just really disheartening. I didn't realize this until now. I really might just quit. I might quit the show right now because I realized that you do not have the Chargers in the playoffs, and it's
Bruning's not very happy with me either because he picked yesterday. He said he thinks Herbert's going to win MVP. I like all these teams. To me, it came down to looking at schedules. So the NFC West and the AFC West, I have all 4 teams over 500, but I think because all 4 teams have decent talent on their roster, they damage each other, and it's hard. You can do pretty well in your non-conference.
Down the stretch, though, look at this. I mean, the Chargers play at Denver. That's a win. They play Cincinnati. The Giants, of course, they play KC, but Houston, Denver, Las Vegas. I mean, that's they probably win 5 of the 7 games to end the season. Man, I'm really upset. I might just quit the podcast right now. This podcast is no more. Your Justin Herbert slander is not allowed.
I had so that's the thing. I had a lot of parity in the AFC, and that's where I ended up with a lot of teams kind of right around 500. The way it selects, I used that playoff predictor I told you. So it works out the tiebreakers based on how you pick the schedule. Because I had a whole log jam of teams around 9-8, 10-7. But apparently, if it worked out the way I picked it, these are the tiebreakers, and I had them missing. I have Denver missing too. I think they're going to be a decent, right around 9-8. I think.
You're not going to like my bets later then, Mr. Fox.
No. I think the big difference, though, I seem to be giving the Raiders more credit than everyone else. I don't know how in this point in my life as a Denver fan, I got to be the guy that was giving the Raiders a break.
The West does have the easiest schedule in football this year, though. They really do. The entire West have really cupcake schedules. With that being said, give me your wild card teams followed by your AFC championship teams with your winner.
So for me, I have the Miami Dolphins as 5th seed wild card getting in there. I like them to take a little step forward. They were 10-6 last year. I think they win 10 again and get in. I have Baltimore in there, and then I had the Colts. So I actually did have 2 teams from I think the Colts and Titans can both make it. I just think they're going to be really tight, and I picked the Titans to finish a little bit higher. My AFC championship, I had the Bills and the Browns, with the Bills advancing to the Super Bowl to play. If you remember, I picked the Cowboys, which means apparently I'm in a 1992 state of mind.
Yeah, when I was looking at my playoff teams, I kind of narrowed it down to that. I like looking at the last 4 games of the season. I think that the Saints, Tennessee, New England for Miami is really going to nip them in the bud. I really think that hurts them. I personally think that the Miami Dolphins finished third place in the division. I'm not a big fan of Tua. I don't believe in Tua, and I won't believe in Tua. Prove me wrong, and we'll move on with my life. I feel like they could have been a better team last year if they would have just kept Fitz back there for the entire year. They probably would have been a playoff team. With that being said, I've got Chargers at 5, Browns and Titans that round up my playoff teams. I'm not – the AFC is a crapshoot outside the top 2 teams. And like I said, I think the Chargers are the third best team in the conference. I went back and forth with my Super Bowl pick. I really feel like the Bills and the Chiefs just stand out. It's just hard to envision anybody else. And if we have a Bills and Chiefs championship game, the Bills just can make a stop on defense. And we've noticed that's what you have to do against a team like Kansas City. I think Kansas City really needs to run the ball a little bit more than they do. And I think Andy Reid has an issue with understanding that. And I understand Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks in football. He's not the best. I don't care what anybody says. He's not the best. So go throw off a bridge if you think he is. But with that being said, Mahomes is one of the best in the league, and I understand wanting to utilize him and understand wanting to have him with the ball. But you've got to run the football. You've got to take time off the clock, especially with their defense. They've got an okay defense, but Tampa Bay exposed them a little bit in the Super Bowl. And you're not going to stop. You're not going to stop Tyreek and Kelsey. One of them is going to do their thing. But if you can kind of hone in on one of those guys, you're better off doing it. But they have to run the football. They have to. And that to me, and the Bills, can they run the football? We don't know. But I do think they have. I think the Chiefs can run the football if they let Clyde Edwards-Helaire run the ball. I just think the Bills are more inclined, and the Bills have a better defense. And that's why I'm going with the Bills in the AFC Championship game. I don't remember who I put in the Super Bowl last week, so there's that.
I'm pretty sure you put Tampa again.
Did I put Tampa? I don't remember. I've slept since then, so I don't even remember. I had it written down somewhere. I don't even know.
You put the Rams. Sorry.
I did put the Rams. So I have the Rams and the Bills in the Super Bowl. That's what it was. I wanted to go a little bit different. I wanted to put the – yeah.
Right.
All right.
Stafford.
I
actually, when I was doing my award predictions today, I do like Stafford's situation. I think he can win MVP.
I agree with that as well, especially with Akers down. All right. With that being said, we're going to transition over to some bets that I like this year. There's a couple of them that I like. I like the Browns under 10.5. I'm not betting it super heavy, but I like it enough. I think this division beats up on each other a whole lot. This is where it gets a little sketchy. I wouldn't say throw the weight at it, throw the farm at it, because I do feel like they are a 9 or 10 win team. And with that, obviously all they have to do is if they finish with 10, that under 10.5 is good. I like the Ravens under 10 as well. I do think that all three of those teams finish 10 with 9 or 10 wins. I like the Jaguars over 6.5. This one's got a little bit of juice on it. It's plus 120. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm insane by saying this, but if I looked at the schedule, I do think that they could really hone in and get some wins. I do have them potentially winning 7 to 8 games. I just think Trevor Lawrence is that good, and I do think they can score some points. I wouldn't go and bet the farm. This is one I am betting the farm on. I like both of these a whole lot. And that's the Broncos under 8.5 at plus 120. And then, of course, once the juice is there, I do love them a little bit more under that too as well. The alternative under is 7.5, and you can get it at plus 190. And I love it. I don't think the Broncos win more than 5 games this year. I just do. I think they're by far the worst team in the division. And I just think offensively they're going to be terrible this year. And it sucks because I love their offensive pieces. They just don't have a quarterback. And Matthew Fox might kill me. For every reason I was going to quit for picking on the Chargers is going to be the reason he picks for the Broncos. But
no, I have a really hard time when it comes to Denver because, I'm not incredibly proud of the moves that they've made this offseason. I question some of the direction they're going. But I like some of their defensive talent, I don't think it's a high bar for them to end up finishing 500 because they have kind of a soft schedule.
Well, you can't finish 500 anymore.
Well,
so.
Just a little bit over. But that being said, I wouldn't be shocked if you're right and they bomb out. I mean, it's going to be massive depression at my house on Sundays, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I have them at solid 6 wins. Now, do I think that they could get to 7? Yes, easily, because they do have a weak schedule. Their schedule is rather weak. The West just has an easy schedule this year. They do. The entire West does. But I just don't believe in that team. I don't believe in their quarterback, either one of their quarterbacks. I believe in them. The thing about it is, I like the under a lot more since they named Teddy Bridgewater the quarterback than I did Drew Lock, because Lock scares you a little bit. He reminds you of the early days of Brett Favre, but don't calm down, guys. I'm not saying he's Brett Favre. He's a bit of a nut job. I think there's a couple screws loose up there, and I just feel like he's that type of quarterback that can go out there and win some games with his swagger, and with the pieces they have. But for me, I just don't see it. I think the Broncos are just going to be run of the mill this year. I do like the juice on the Chiefs under 11.5. It's plus 145. I'm not betting a lot on it. The thing about it is the over-unders is it really takes somebody that bets a lot to really bet on these, because you're tying up potentially however much dollars you put into your over-unders for 18 weeks is really what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, there's some teams that if you're at, 8 or 9 wins, then, you're really pushing that button, unless the team starts off like 0-10 or something, you know what I mean? You're really pushing the buttons there. But I really love, of all of my bets this week that I really kind of honed in on, I love the juice of plus 190 with the Broncos under 7.5. I like it a whole lot. It's sexy. It's beautiful. And I just don't buy in that team at all. With that being said, as far as all of our sports stuff goes, that's going to be a wrap. Make sure to head on over to the Music City Drive-In. We've got all the team previews launching up until kickoff. 32 teams. We've covered them all. We've got a playoff prediction piece coming with all of our sports writers in the very near future. I think that's going to be fun. We're going to give out the MVP. We're going to give out Coach of the Year, and we're going to give out a few other things that Matthew Fox told me about that he keeps yelling at me about because I haven't turned my picks in yet.
Yeah, that one actually, that'll go on Sunday, and then playoff predictions from our staff will go on Labor Day Monday to wrap up 35 consecutive days of NFL previews.
And we've got a lot of NFL content coming for you guys throughout the season. It's going to be pumping out multiple articles, especially Mr. Fox over here pumps out at least 3 a week. And then, of course, the difference between last year and this year, we've got a staff this year that's got some consistent pieces that are going to come out weekly. We're going to be here every Friday talking the games. We're going to be talking picks. We're going to be talking bets. We're going to talk DFS. I've already got to look ahead. I'm excited because I get to hone right into my DFS picks next week. It's going to be kind of something that we hone in on each and every week. But with that being said, if you want to press the pause button, you've listened to all the sports that you want to listen to, that's fine. We're going to drop into our movie corner right now, and we're going to talk about a couple of films that we both already seen. One that I've seen that Mr. Fox has seen tonight, but lots of new movies this week that can be seen. The first of two are not exactly your prototypical football fans probably going to reach out to watch these this weekend, but at all. So if we had people questioning whether or not or why they were listening to this podcast, after we talk about these two movies, Afterlife of the Party and Cinderella, they really will never listen to this podcast ever again. But two films.
You never know. There might have been people tuning in that were borderline whether they cared about football, and now we've hit the prime with Cinderella.
We did. We've hit the peak of Cinderella. Afterlife of the Party is one of the most frustrating movies that I saw this year because about 45 minutes in, I was like, oh, cool. 3rd week in a row, Netflix has dropped the movie, and I wanted to drop my face on just smash it on the ground because we had Sweet Girl, which was a disaster of a movie. He's All That, which was a disaster of a movie. And then, of course, this week I was like, Afterlife of the Party. I was like, and I saw Afterlife of the Party earlier in the week this week because I got the screener of it, but it's not bad. The first 45 minutes is like, I hate this movie. And then the second half of the movie, I'm just like, this is good.
So it's possible that it's poorly written.
Yes.
But in saying that, they hit a stride in the character construction and writing in the middle and latter stages of the film that is really good. So I was with you. The first 15 minutes, I thought, well, I can almost just safely write my 1-star review now and move on. But then you get to kind of the soft, the heart of the film. Victoria Justice, I thought, did some nice acting. I can't remember the name of the girl that plays her friend, was very good as well. But
I loved her.
There's a scene where they're singing with Adam. I think it's Adam Garcia who plays her father. It was incredibly moving. So it went, and at that point you're like, is this a 5-star movie? But then you remember the beginning, so I settled on 3. I actually thought it was watchable. I thought it was much more engaging than I expected with the premise in the beginning. But I'm with you. It was a frustrating from that standpoint of it was wildly uneven.
Yeah, Midori Francis was her name. I loved her. I thought she was really the heart of the second half of the film that really kind of made it. I thought Victoria Justice was fine. I think that she played well enough in the role to make me kind of care. But my biggest issue, and I said this in my review, was Adam Garcia looked like he was Victoria Justice's older brother, not her father. Like, he just looked like a very early 30s, and I understand very early 30s
but
now.
You know what? He looked very early 30s when he did Coyote Ugly 20 years ago. So I bet that dude is actually closer to age appropriate. He just doesn't age really well.
He was born in 73.
He was Piper Parabou's love interest in Coyote Ugly. That's what I was looking at him. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that.
He's 48?
I told you, he's probably pretty close to 50. Some people just age well.
He's 48 years old?
Not this person, but some people.
Yeah. Wait a minute. He looks like he legitimately looked like he could have been her older brother in this movie. I don't even know. Also, I didn't realize until you just said it that was who played Piper Parabou's boyfriend. And he's always been a good looking dude, because he was a good looking dude in Coyote Ugly. I remember. I love that movie so much. I could talk about Coyote Ugly until I love that movie.
Maybe we should do some rewind films on slow weeks coming up here, because I like that one too. I need to rewatch it before I have thoughts. But every once in a while, Leanne Rimes music comes on, because I listen to the best of the 2000s radio.
Yeah,
and I can't fight the moonlight when I'm driving either.
Oh my God, absolutely! I'm blast. And speaking of singing movies, musical, the brand new Cinderella dropped, and it was met with a lot of very, 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 very bad reviews. And I saw the movie, I don't know, like a week and a half ago. And when I went into the movie, there's zero expectation, and then there's below zero expectation. So like it's all the way down here. I threw it on to have just kind of background noise. I was going to review the movie. I was like, man, what is this about? And then I watched it, and I'm watching it. And I'm watching it, and then you start hearing some songs, and then you start kind of vibing with the vibe, and then you're like, holy shit, this is good. Like, and the thing about it is it a great movie? Absolutely not. But is it a fun, refreshing, different, unique take on a story that we've seen 1,000 times? Kay Cannon could have really just wrote another Cinderella movie, and it could have been just about with a different princess and the same premise. But instead, she takes this unique, creative way to breathe a fresh air into a story we've seen 1,000 times. I loved it. I really, really loved it.
And you had to have loved it, because I know how you feel about James Corden. He was a co-writer and a co-star, and you still gave it 4 stars. So, I mean, that should tell people right now how good the rest of it is. I think so. Kay Cannon, Pitch Perfect. She wrote New Girl. She did Blockers. It's very much in that style. I put in my thoughts, it feels like the Pitch Perfect version of Cinderella, and I mean that in the best possible way. They use a lot of fun songs. I thought the music was kicking. I thought the choices were really
fantastic.
Good. Very fun. They had a few of them that reminded me of some of the big power ballads in Glee. They have Idina Menzel is in there. Or
Pierce Brosnan was awesome.
He
was great.
Driver, who we've not seen in a minute. My wife liked it pretty well. She didn't care for Billy Porter. But I think that's a kind of an acquired style.
Yeah, I really liked him. I liked him. Yeah.
I don't remember being. I had to look up Camila Cabello's songs because I've heard the name, but I couldn't pin one to him. I thought she was very delightful in the lead role. I had a lot of fun too. I gave it 3.5 stars, which, if you know me and my conservative star doling out, that's so it may not have appealed to the masses, but it appealed to these two middle-aged white guys that like football. So, Kay, I don't know what your target demo is, but you made it here.
It's crazy. So I realized when I was writing my review, I realized Kay and I are friends on Facebook. We know people in our inner circles together, and I was like talking to her. It kind of blows my mind. It's like I think
I don't know about you. Pitch Perfect is an all-time. For me, it's going to be.
Oh, I love Pitch Perfect.
Next year, I'm going to go through my top 50 of all time revised. It's in there. I loved New Girl. I like that style. So
yeah, I thought it was good. And again, like when we see movies, like you see the movies that get redone, you had a lot, which I liked the new Aladdin. I liked it a whole lot actually. But you see, they're typically normal, the same cookie cutter movies, same story. Even the Cinderella that came out a couple years ago, I really liked that one. I was a big fan of that. But it's that same cookie cutter story that you hear over and over and over again. Like you watch The Lion King, like it was a piece of garbage. But when you watch The Lion King, it was almost the same movie, except for it was kind of sort of live action.
It was a Jon Favreau passion project.
But
come on.
There's so many different things. But with this, it was like, oh, Cinderella, oh, modernized music. Oh, cool up-tempo music. Oh, great, solid performances. Like it was a lot of fun, and it was. I had a blast.
For those that are thinking, is this just the classic story? It is and it isn't. I mean, it follows all the beats of the classic story, but it's also takes some characters in a different way. Looks at some different themes. I thought that was a clever take. If you enjoyed Pitch Perfect, I think you're going to like this movie.
And I do like like everybody kind of really in my head, like all of our main characters really had a good payoff. I really like that as well. I do think that it didn't end in the prototypical cookie cutter way. And that to me is the other thing that I really liked about what Kate Cannon did. It didn't end with Prince and Princess and the Prince Charming and all that whole thing. It kind of ended a little bit different and unique. And I really liked it. I'll be honest with you. I would watch another one. I would watch another one of these movies. I don't know what the numbers are going to look like, obviously, because it was on Amazon. I know the budget was around 100, and they filmed this whole entire movie during the pandemic. Yeah, they filmed a lot of this movie during the pandemic, which is also kind of unique to see as well. But one funny story about the movie, I saw an interview with Pierce Brosnan, and he said he insisted on getting a singing thing in the movie. So Kay wrote a little special thing so that he could have a little breakout scene.
There's some movie they make jokes about him being a terrible singer, and I think that's because he was in Mamma Mia where I mean, he's not the worst singer, but maybe
no. I do think
he was an excellent James Bond.
I do think it's hilarious that I saw one of Kay's posts where she talked about how she always has the one scene where like her main character's always running off, and Camila Cabello always said something that she's like, "Hey, are we gonna have that scene?" And then like that's one of the ending scenes is her kind of running off into the grass. But all right, so before we go, I saw Shang-Chi last night. Another film that I had very little expectations for. I am on the other side of, I think that this has been a very up and down year for Marvel. I didn't love WandaVision as much as everybody else did. I truly did not like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I thought that was miserable. And I did love Loki. And I thought Black Widow was just okay at best. I really didn't love Black Widow. So I think it's been a very like, woo, which is kind of strange because I really typically love Marvel stuff. But for me, Shang-Chi, we're back on the right trajectory. I feel like I had some certain issues with the film, but as a collective whole, that movie works. I think that Simu Liu is brilliant. I cannot wait to see him in this universe. I can't wait to see what he does because he's phenomenal. Awkwafina, she was fantastic in The Farewell. If you watch The Farewell, she was phenomenal in that movie. She was a lot of fun. But I loved it. I'm not going to say anything else about it. I can't wait for you to see it. I can't wait for you to give it like a D- just because
Well, you and I have almost been entirely opposite. Like WandaVision's pretty close to top 5 for me. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I will give you, had moments of incredible frustration, but I thought there were some beautiful moments. I wasn't as taken with Loki as other people, and I actually liked Black Widow more than you. So we've been on opposite trajectory. It'll be interesting to see if we can find any Marvel common ground.
I do think that you will. I think you will like. I will think you will like Shang-Chi. I really do.
The key this weekend, though, if you're taking anything away from us, is if you're going into all of these movies with low expectations, same.
You're gonna love them.
And apparently that's what's worked for this. I'm excited to see. I'm kind of interested to see Worth too, the Netflix. I know you saw that one. I know it's going to be or one of the people on our site. I thought.
Yeah, I didn't see
it.
Yeah. No. Mike, I think
I was pretty sure
Miller reviewed it. No, Miller reviewed it.
But, I know that one's coming out for Netflix today about a guy who is tasked with assigning a dollar value to the loss of everyone from 9/11. We are coming up on the 20th anniversary.
Oh, my God.
And
I watched the documentary.
Yeah.
I watched the documentary on Apple TV. The Apple TV documentary. They had all of them on there. They had George Bush. They had I'm trying to remember who else they had, and it's really hard to rate certain documentaries, but for me that one was it's an interesting watch because it's in the minds of everybody that was involved with that situation. So that's another fantastic one. Next week we've got some what do we have next week coming out?
We have week 1, and then I can't remember. Film-wise, September was not in time.
I don't know what happened with Matthew Fox. He is RIP'd, but the card counter comes out next week. But with that being said, I just wanted to throw it out there. Oh, there he's back. He's back.
Internet.
It's okay. The card counter comes out next week. I'm very excited about that. And then Malignant.
Malignant. Yeah, I'll probably
Malignant,
watch.
yes.
I might have, if you watched that in advance, I might have seen that by the time we talk, because I know that one's dropping on HBO Max. I don't know if I'm going to go to the theater to see it. A little bit of a James Wan horror movie, though.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. And then Come From Away comes out on Apple TV Plus next Friday as well, ahead of 9/11 as well, which is a phenomenal Broadway play that they bring to life. Kind of
is that what it's about? I didn't know that's what it is.
It's about 9/11. Yeah, it's about the story of Newfoundland. And these people that all these grounded flights, there was like 7,000. I don't know. It's a phenomenal movie, or it's a Broadway play brought to life. It's like a Hamilton-esque version, but I really loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I got interviews with the cast coming out soon too. Not to plug that while we're here, but with that being said, we're out of here this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for supporting the show. Again, football season is here. It is here. And I can't talk enough about the fact that we're going to be bringing you so much content over at the Music City Drive-In. We've got a lot of stuff coming in the near future. I really do appreciate you listening. And Matthew Fox and I will be back same time-ish next week. We'll talk to you guys later.